Hey, racers, we're here today to talk to you about some exciting changes in data accessibility. So what you're seeing here in front of me is that indisputable sheet that we made public just before season 2 started. And just to give you a little bit of a backstory of what goes into making this happen. So for us to provide data to everybody to try to make things fair, we have to have an ongoing database. And when you have 5,000 horses that are racing multiple times a day, we're now crossed over well over 400,000 lines of data. Now we're using Google Sheets, free program, and Google Sheets does definitely have limitations to how much processing you can do. And one of the things that we tried to do to make things more optimized here is we separated this stuff into just a database. Then we were trying to import data in, thinking that what he's processing, but that just ended up leading to a lot of problems. And for this specific sheet in this tool, I have to manually update every single field. I do a Control F, so it's not the biggest amount of work, but every update I do, it breaks. And that sucks. So what's exciting about this is Super Jockey Bot, I used to call him SJB or Super Jockey. He figured out a way, and he's building, it seems, essentially a database with, the best I know it is calling them APIs, but accessing the data via JSON. Going over to his tab here, he has a sub for research discussion. The whole entire purpose of this is if you're doing analysis and you want to chime in and contribute to this, come here. Now, what's exciting about this is that using this extension, Epiphany, we're able to now extract data directly from his system, meaning that as I come back over to this tool here, nobody needs to constantly update this database and nobody needs to constantly update little features and tools. This is not yet fully dialed into the public. I just want to make sure you guys understand what's coming. And if you're interested in doing this yourself, I want to show you some of the tools of how you can do so. So if we look back to the old role by role analysis, we call that detailed Furlong. This had limited data that we had available. And what's amazing now is if I go back to the public tools, so bouncing back and forth, switching over to my role analysis page, what this is doing is this is pinging that server and it's pulling all data on this horse ID without having to replicate the database. So what's cool about this is you'll be able to come in here, put in your horse. Now it does take 10, 15 seconds, depending on how much race data that you have. But if I were to change this, which screw it, I'll go ahead and switch over to Burra. So now as I process this, this is dumping all data from Scondert and it's going to download everything from Burra and it's going to process this all and you're going to see the results flip shortly. So this would be very bad if we were having everybody in the community using this tool at once, because if somebody changed your horse ID in the middle of it, you lose all your analysis. So I'm trying to build this in a way, or we're trying to build this so that way you could copy it and save it to your own, name it to your own, and hopefully everything still functions well. So here comes the data. Again, as you can see, it takes a little bit of time for it to process.
I think that's really important to point out too, that like you said, we're trying to make these tools available to everyone in the community. Right now, Indisputable is available, and Super Jockey Bot is making the JSON data for each of these roles that your horse has. Every 10th of a furlong, you get a role, you get a value. That's what's becoming available right here. And we're trying to put it into a clean format so that you can look at this page and not have to sift through, I forget how many different columns and obviously rows, depending on which horse you're looking at, but instead can see it in a quick snapshot with nice charting so that you can take a look at what your horse is able to do. But even more importantly, what we're about to talk about in this video is some of the things that we're already seeing. And we've literally had this data in our hands for only a handful of hours.
Yeah.
So this is going to be really fun.
Yep. And so I'm going to give you guys a real crash course again on this tool. So I made this a while back when we briefly had that V2 launch and we had that awesome data, but then they stopped it. Well, we've somehow got that data back. We just do the math. So how that happens, don't know. But in this tool, if you remember that every single time a horse runs a furlong, there's 10 individual basically dice rolls that dictate the speed at which your horse runs. So what this is going to show you is this is that roll by roll analysis. I would focus the bulk of my time up here, but if I scroll down below, you're going to see each of these are the 10th of the furlongs. So for every single race that Burra has ran, we could see the average. And up here, this is in milliseconds. So this is taking a look at every single individual roll, Tallying it up though, to show you what is the average pace of Burra on the first, the second, the third. This also includes reaction speed of the horse. And then what we were trying to do is to study what was the slowest and the fastest, so your min and your max of the horse per furlong. And then the other thing that you're seeing here, the FLL and the RLL. We take statistics very seriously within our team, just us two. So FLL would be your furlong lower limit. Lower limit basically means you ran faster than average. So of 10 rolls, let's say for easy numbers, your average is 500 milliseconds per roll. The question is how many of those did it fall below 500? So if you ran, in this example, 6 of them were below your average pace, that means 4 of them were in slower. What we're noticing is that there's a common trend. You'll see it fluctuate. It's usually 3 to 7 is extreme, but 4, 5, 6 stays pretty common. Now, the RLL is your race lower limit. So rather than taking a look at just the 10 rolls of your furlong, it takes the entirety of the race and it goes, okay, your average is this across all furlongs. Now, in the furlong of question, how many of those were faster than the race average? Now, what's really important about this is I want to point out here, 8 furlongs for Burra. Notice her last 2 furlongs, she ran all 10 rolls faster than average. So then we go, okay, let's switch her up.
And you can actually,
15.
you can see this play out in the chart as well.
Exactly. You'll see this precipitous drop right here. And all of a sudden, the last 4 furlongs now on 15, all 10 of them were a lower limit. So we go to 14. And you're going to see this trend over and over and over again, where here's this drop off, boom, it goes the last 10 faster. So we've been digging through this data. We're pretty sure that the math is correct. This is opening up a whole bunch of new analysis that we want to do, but we've thrown it out there. If you guys want to pick your own brains and figure out how to do this, the data is going to be available to you. But what we're finding is it seems that there's that competitive desire of a horse, and that competitive desire, what do you think, 20, 25%?
It's seeming to almost come out exactly to 25%. The last 25% of your race, those last 25% of your individual rolls have what seems to be, I think you were doing the numbers, approximately a 5% boost to their speed.
Yep.
And that's consistent. You see this drop off. So if you're running 14, 15 furlongs, you're going to see your last 4 furlongs be much faster than your previous set. If you're only running 8, it's going to be those last 2 furlongs. If you're running 4 furlongs, you get a speed boost in that last furlong.
Just
now,
like
some
that.
horses will, yeah, there you go. Some horses will have a top speed that picks up really fast right before the end. So their third, or right before their last 25%, they may still have a really good roll on average. But to get that 10, to have the RLL actually be a full 10, meaning every single roll was below your average, we only see that in the last 25% of the race. Now, one other thing, and I'll throw it back to you here, is what this means for the first place horse, because we've all seen it. We've been on the track. We've seen those horses come from second place, third place, move all the way up and fight for that last top position. What we are just starting now to dig into is what it means for that first place horse. Is the first place horse also getting the same amount of boost? If it were, we would suspect that every single first place horse would just maintain its lead throughout the race. But we're not able to pinpoint that with the data that we have just yet. We'll have to take those individually, look at each race, find out which horse was in that first position at the point of 25% of the race remaining, and analyze that against the second place, third place, fourth place horse, and see what we see. So that's something that's definitely on our list, and we'll probably have a video about that coming out. But
Yep.
For now, it's that 25% that has really got us interested in digging deeper.
Yeah. And for those that might not know why this is so interesting, is that we all know reaction, we know speed, we know stamina, and we also know that there's additional traits where that competitive nature is. But we've looked at our data, we've mapped our data of all of our horses, and we've always had this question: if we have a horse that does well in 7s and 8s, why does it show up again on 12s or 13s? If it ran out of stamina, how does it have just this bump and then it gets fast again. And every horse that we look at, I'm going to bump this back up to, let's say 12 furlongs so we can keep seeing this. Every horse that we've studied on every single track that we've studied, we see this similar trend. Now, why this is so exciting is that when you're taking a look at, again, macro data, if you look at the whole race versus micro data, which is what we're showing here, we could start to look for things that we might be able to be indicative of speed and stamina traits. If we find out that the horse slows down more than 25%, that might show us, okay, that might be where your stamina cutoff is. But if we know that 25% of the race is going to speed up, that's going to blind us a little bit to what we're seeing. So this gives us the ability to hopefully zoom in a little bit more. And then as Mark was just talking about, one thing we wanted to do, we were talking about this last time we saw each other, was it'd be cool to model out every single horse on a track and find out, is this 25% boost? Are we seeing this in the middle of the race too? So if it does a second place horse get a 5% boost, are we seeing this, and are we seeing jostling? And maybe it's just because every horse is now jostling at the very end. We see them all run, but there's got to be traits about the person that's, or the horse that's winning. There might be a competitive nature, a closing element. And so again, for breeders in the game that are really trying to look for attributes that you want to breed into your next horse, I get excited by this because we could now very clearly see the reaction of 277 milliseconds on average for Burr out the gate. And then if we could start to see that closing desire, it might be able to give us more understanding of what these horses are doing out there.
Exactly. On this one in particular, we have the last 3 furlongs are that faster speed. But you see that in the 9th furlong, she also was able to roll faster. And so I suspect that she's still got speed that is increasing at that point. So she could probably do just a little bit longer than a 12 furlong. And I actually happen to know that she can run 14s as well on turf. Now she's got a really interesting set. She can run 10s, 12s, and 14s. 11s and 13s are still an anomaly that I have not figured out what's going on. But it may just be that there's not enough data. It may be that things are getting applied RNG wise, just a little uniquely on that small sample size. But I'm still trying to get more races there. What I want to point out though, is that you'll notice, and this is something we're going to have fun with as well, looking at her reaction time, she's actually got a really good average reaction comparative to horses out there. It's pretty good, but she almost always ends up with her first furlong being slower than some of the horses out there. 13 plus seconds on that first furlong is actually pretty slow, but you'll see here, she quickly picks it up in that second furlong. I've got some theories. We're going to be digging deeper as I can spend some time with this charting and data on what that means, having a good reaction horse, having it be slow in the early furlongs. There's some horses that have the pure opposite of that. We see really bad reaction times. It's almost as if they've lit a fire under their butt and got to get going. So they are looking to sprint early. What we don't know is whether or not they are burning stamina at a faster rate to do so. Or if that's just how they've built the game, that if you have a slow reaction, you're going to use up your speed early. But then maybe it comes into play later that you lose out on some additional speed. Not sure yet, but that's something we'll be digging into as well.
Yep. So more will be coming. I'll be trying to clean this thing up. I just want to make sure that the math is all accurate and the tools function. I hate sending something out publicly and then finding out that it breaks. So I'm hopefully within a day away, maybe later today, I'll get this out, but follow us. We'll post it on everything. So you'll see and you'll know when it's free and out there for everybody. The other thing, a reminder, going back to the Discord page, I would recommend checking this out. It was stupid easy. You don't need to know much code. You'll need to come up here and you'll go into your extensions. You will add an add-on, look up Epiphany. Once you put it in there, you have to open up AppScript. And it literally has code that you just copy, paste, save. That's it. So if you can copy, paste, and save, you don't have to write a single thing of code. That's all you need to do. And then the part that you'll just need to copy in, you'll just have this little section, which you can literally copy and paste. And once you do that, everything functions. Beyond that is all about how do you want to do your own analysis? How do you want to build your own tools? So I encourage everybody to give this stuff a go. The last note that I want to throw in there is just race your horses more. I picked up a floor horse just recently, and it's been outperforming Skondert during season 2. It was the floor. And it's just, I couldn't believe people just give up on horses so quickly. But I also gave up on a horse that I decided to start racing again recently in areas that I stopped training at 10. And all of a sudden, 2 first places and a second place just today alone. And it's one of those things where it's like 10 races is not enough data. You really, really got to give these horses a go. And if you flip them and you're selling them off the floor because you think it's a garbage horse with 10 races, you might lose a gem. So careful out there.
And for those of you that are wondering about how to calculate speed, I know we've had conversations with a handful of you, tons of you actually, about how this game calculates speed. This is a big part of it that you're looking at right here. This is going to determine a lot. And as you can see, it's not as straightforward as saying, oh, my horse has a 80 speed score. It's like, well, it has an 80 speed score mixed with a unique reaction time, mixed with a weird competitiveness factor at its preferred length. There's so many factors here that you can't just take speed. So speed is the nugget in the middle, but the shape of that nugget changes depending on your horse, what it likes, and what it's running in any particular time.
And then you have 12 new wearables that are going to be coming out. So if those wearables are going to adjust this horse's speed and you only have a couple data points and then you put on a speed boosting asset, how do you know how much effect it had on it? So it will be madness to me for anybody to put a wearable on without having extensive testing in place.
And we also don't have any idea if wearables are going to affect the speed score, or for instance, what if it affects the 25% mark? What if it kicks in that boost 30% into the race, or with 30% remaining? It's a whole different result.
Yep.
Same thing, your horse is a little faster, but at the end of the day, it could be faster for a handful of different reasons.
Oh yeah. Like I have strategies I've already been thinking about for this. I'm excited to test them once we get those wearables, but I won't waste any time bringing up theories just yet. But yeah, hopefully we'll get this stuff to you guys soon. And then we got more coming. Season 2 has been going great. So looking forward to chatting with you guys more about that.